Well, that's what bands come to us for. They come to us because they expect a certain level. A lot of bands that work with us do get radio on Spotify and things like that, and they're getting that because of the decisions that we make in the studio. It's really exciting when you get to the end of a session and you dig in and you find that magic, whatever it is, and you get out to the side and you think, this is fucking cool. This is.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful what I say because everyone's an Oasis fan. I'm not bothered that they're getting back together personally. Whatever. I mean.
Was that a pun or? There's a few listeners that would know about Viola Beach. What were they like to work with?
Are we allowed to swear? Yeah. Good, that's good, because done some live radio before, and that's the worst thing, because when they say don't swear, it's like
you're holding everything
really
back.
It's like the only thing you're thinking about is you're not even listening to the question. You're thinking, don't say fuck, don't say fuck, don't say fuck. That's the only thing going for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I've done that before. Yeah, it's definitely hard not to.
Well, with me, swearing's a bit like breathing as well, though. So it's like,
it's, free rein on this one.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, well, I'm not going to be swearing too much, but
no.
You good?
Yeah. Right. Welcome to the One More Songcast. It's me on my own today hosting, but today we've got a very special guest, a producer I've had the pleasure to work with at Sugar House Music down at is it Catalyst Studios in St Helens? Or?
Yeah, well, people get confused by that because myself and Lee McCarthy, we are Sugar House and we work at Catalyst Studios, but sometimes people think Sugar House is a place and they call it Sugar House Studios, and it's not really, it's Catalyst, but it's just a name that stuck, the Sugar House, but and then there was three of us originally, and then it became two, and then we just stuck with it because we liked it. So
super. So it is Ady Hall we've got on the podcast today. I didn't meant to say that. So how was 2024? Because I didn't see you in 2024. I recorded with you last in 2023.
Wow, I can't believe it. I can't even believe it's. Yeah. I'm still in 2022 in my head. I don't know. It's weird because it's like 23, 24. We recorded the Corella album in 23, and that just seems like 2 minutes ago. 24, we did a lot of good tracks, but it was just an odd year. It felt like there was a big, don't know. It was a hard year from like April to September. Just a lot of adapting really to sort of the way the cost of living crisis really, because I think this is same across the board. We've noticed everyone who's in a creative job, you really have to sort of. It was a bit of all of a sudden we just thought, bands just struggling for money and stuff, so we really had to sort of like adapt how we work, and then a lot of bands breaking up. Sometimes that happens, and all bands coming to the end of a cycle, and then but we're really, the end of the year was brilliant, and then this year's looking great. But we're always doing good music, and I think this year it's like we've only been in a month, and sometimes you get used to sort of there's a level you're aiming for, and you kind of get used to it, and you think, well, that's the level, and you sort of, you're excited by it, but you sort of get used to it. But this last month, every week, we've been doing stuff and thinking, my God, this is really good, and we're getting like
what you signed up for. If you like,
it's surprising us what we're doing now. So I feel like we are getting better at what we're doing at the minute, which is exciting. So we feel like sky's the limit, and
brilliant. So, Ady, we've started to do this thing. We've nicked it off Stephen Bartlett's podcast, to be honest. So where we get the last guest to ask the next guest a question. So last guest was Will Edgar, and he's asked to ask you, what do you make of 12-year-olds buying Oasis tickets?
Do 12-year-olds have enough money to buy Oasis tickets? That's what I want to know. How many paper rounds do you have to do to buy an Oasis ticket?
Nick all the Bates paper rounds,
I don't know. Whatever. I mean...
Was that a pun, or?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, you've got to be careful what I say because everyone's an Oasis fan. Obviously, they were great. I'm not bothered that they're getting back together personally. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing gigs and everything. But I suppose we'll see. But a 12-year-old listening to Oasis, I don't know. My son's 10. I don't think he's bothered. But yeah, I suppose it's like, see, I don't think Oasis have ever really gone away, to be honest, because I remember it. Well, I remember it quite well. I mean, I'm showing my age here. I remember it very, very well, and it seems like not. It doesn't seem like 30 odd years ago.
No,
at all. But I feel like in Manchester, there's always been that scene. No matter where you go, there's always been a guy doing the Liam Gallagher impression in a unsigned venue.
Yeah,
and obviously because they've had Liam and Noel have carried on, I don't really feel like they've gone away. Whereas I think if they'd gone away and then come back, I think it'd be like it was always going to happen at some point, weren't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think it was just that massive gap, and you thought maybe they are going to go down the Jam route. I thought
maybe. Yeah,
there's another pun there. No, I think I did think that Noel was going down the Jam route where he doesn't want to be one of those bands that reunites, but then all of a sudden he gets a divorce and you're thinking, right, okay, stuff's brewing on Twitter here. This is getting closer now.
I was on holiday, I think, when in Mallorca when they announced it, and I was just like, oh God, just that was all. Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe how excited people were for it, though.
Yeah, I suppose, like if you never got to see him, like I stupidly turned down the chance to get a ticket in 2009, which is the last gig at Wembley, because Sabian were on the lineup, The Enemy were on the lineup, and Reverend and the Makers were on the lineup as well.
That's good.
So that would have been a good lineup to see. And I said, no, I was going to some party on the Saturday. I was like, I don't think I'll have enough money for both.
No.
And then a month later they split up.
That, yeah.
So, 150 quid for a ticket. A few years later, well, I say a few years, it's been about 14, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out to be a stupid decision because it was only about 60 quid then for four bands.
No, it's mad.
So what we'll do, Ady, is what we like to do is take it right back to the start of your musical journey. So how did you get into music? Like, what was being played around the house? What were your mum and dad listening to?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I grew up in the 80s, so it was like it was top of the pops, and I think that when I was a really little kid, I really liked. I mean, I'm talking like 4 or 5. Really, I think I listened to like a couple of Elvis cassettes, like that, and then I started. But then, really, every Thursday night, it was. I've watched Top of the Pops since, and I think it's shit. But at the time, I was absolutely mesmerised by it. And I grew up in the 80s. I think for pop music, I think the 80s was just amazing. And I watched that every Thursday religiously, and then things like the chart show on a Sunday. I used to like tape the top 40, and it was just just remember listening to music all the time in the car, on the radio, and then I was just like, I think it was like when I was like 9 or 10, my dad bought me like a nylon strung guitar.
Yeah,
and I didn't use it for like about a year because I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to tune it. I didn't know how to do anything with it. So eventually, and I don't think they're particularly easy guitars to learn on either.
No, you have to teach on them now, like in the schools.
Yeah.
And like most kids come in with a pick, and it's like they're pulling the strings every time.
I think it's that hard to learn on one of those. It kind of puts you off almost. You really have to, well, one thing I do think about, if you can learn one of them, you really have to persevere with it.
Yeah.
So when you do get like an electric guitar, it's amazing because you've sort of really struggled on one of those. But I started going to guitar lessons. There was a guy up the road called Dave Duxbury, and he was brilliant. Just a guy, he smoked a pipe, this old guy, and he just went round for an hour, and he was always late though. He was like, I think he'd lived there. So he's like, he'd get up late on a Saturday, and then you get there, and there'd be 3 people waiting for like, he was just late all the time. So you was never on time. If my like lesson was at 11, I won't have my lesson till 1 o'clock because he was just behind. Just really laid back, this guy. But he was really good. And I went there for a few years, and then I think my sister had piano lessons, and so there was a piano in the house at some point. They brought home a second-hand piano, and I started tinkering on that a little bit. And then my brother got a drum kit, and again, he didn't really bother with it, so I started messing on that. And then at school, there was like, when I went to secondary school, there was like, I had some drum lessons. And then I had a few piano lessons, but I didn't like piano lessons. don't know. And then really it was just a case of like sitting in my bedroom, and I started collecting CDs and records, and then I'd had these instruments, and then what I'd started doing, I started learning how to play the songs I liked, and sitting there, and that was really good. That, because you don't really get that time. That's why I really like COVID, because it felt a bit like that. Like I was able to sit there and actually just really practice.
Yeah,
that was really good. That, and I thought it was like, because I think with your guitar playing, I feel like that I sort of plateaued a little bit. I was like, I knew a few things, but I'd never really improved for like ages. I sort of knew, but during COVID, I really felt like I went up a few gears, but then I've forgotten a lot of it now. But I still, I'm going to try and when I get some time. Well, if there's another lockdown, I'll do something else. But and then I think, eventually you started trying to put bands together. But it's hard, that, because I think I found it really difficult trying to put a band together. But there was a guy actually just round the corner, a good friend of mine, and he was like really into synthesizers. And he kind of got me into synthesizers, actually, because him and his brother were just obsessed with like New Order, Pet Shop Boys, Depeche Mode, and they had, and his older brother Stephen had a load of synths, and I thought, and then he got me into that as well, because I love sort of synthesizers and that, and stuff like that as well. So then I started sort of dabbling in that as well. But then, because there was two of us and we didn't really have any mates, we were best friends. We started sort of like, it was like an electronic sort of thing. We're only like 13, 14, and we'd make music on Cubase, and then and then eventually, I think when I was like 16, 17, we got another guy in on bass and a drummer, and we rehearsed in my bedroom, and we must have driven our neighbours insane. There was a guy who lived next door called Ian, and he was a bank manager or something, and he hated me. I think he was at the end of his tether, because I get up in the morning, like sometimes 7 in the morning, I'd start playing drums. 11 o'clock at night, I might just start playing drums. My mum just let me do it. She didn't care, but obviously, like, they had to get up for work, and I appreciate that. I'd want to, if I was me, I'd want to kill me then. And then there was another guy, he was over the road, he used to work nights, and I'd just start 2 in the afternoon, I'd just start practicing, playing, banging my drums, and sometimes I'd put like speakers on the roof and stuff like that, and just when I was in the garden just playing loud music and stuff. Loved it. And I think what happened once, I got a letter from the council about noise pollution.
Is that one of your biggest achievements?
I've still got it. I should frame it. And it was like, but it didn't really stop me. But we rehearsed in my bedroom, and then we didn't really get out gigging with this band because we didn't really have a proper PA system, and we said, look, well, we could do with all chipping in and getting a really basic vocal PA, so we can actually just hear what's going on with like the but anyway, I think we were chucking in 80 quid each, and there's 4 of us, and they were all up for it. And then the drummer said, no, well, for that reason I'm out. And he just that was it. That was the level of his ambition. 80 quid. He was like, forget it. That's it. I'm not doing it. So there's no way to pay for recording if he couldn't part with 80 quid. And I think he just wanted to. He was really sort of wanted to focus on his A levels, and I think he just went to. I don't know what he did, but yeah, he went to uni and did something else. And then what happened then? And I think we ended up becoming a duo again, or a 3-piece, then a duo, and then me and my friend Pete, we must have been about.
So were you writing songs in this?
I was always writing songs from when I was about 13, trying to write songs, and I think when I was about 16, 17, I probably wrote my first, what I thought was it was probably shit, but it's what I thought. Yeah. It's what I thought my first proper song was, and I was like, and when you write your first song, you're like, it's you basically think you're a fucking genius.
Yeah, you think, you all of a sudden you think you've turned into your idol, and you're like, yeah, this is where my journey starts now. Yeah. Then you listen back to it about 5 years later.
Yeah, I've written a lot of songs, and most of them are probably shit. No, but I'm saying a lot. I mean hundreds. But yeah, and then we became the duo again after trying to get the band off the ground, and then we ended up. We actually set up a studio in a business unit and converted it into a studio. And what we wanted, the idea was we were going to rent this place and then record like a bunch of songs and then go gigging. But we're only supposed to do it for a year. We ended up being in there for 4 years, like recording, and now I look back on it and think, well, at the time, I felt like I'd wasted 4 years of my life, but I felt like it wasn't really one. But now I look back and think that was really good. I didn't know I was going to be a producer. We were just self-producing our own stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it was my best friend, and then we tried. I felt like we just spent too much time on it, and I felt like I was stuck. It was I was living in Burnley still, and I was finished college, and I was working in dead-end jobs, temping, and then to pay for this studio. So every night after I'd been in my dead-end job, we'd go to the studio and work till midnight every night and all the weekend, and we'd do that. And then so we recorded a load of songs ourselves. And I think it was just a good. Now I look back on it and think, at the time I was really sort of like, wasted 4 years, but now I didn't know I was going to do what I ended up doing. After that.
Was that just simply a studio project? Because you said you never really got out gigging, or did you?
No, it was we were meant to, but it was really just writing and recording project. But I think that the friend of mine, he was very sort of the pace he worked at was very slow. So I felt like I could have been there. I could have spent my whole life just doing that, not doing anything. And I felt like I was still young, and I felt I was really eager just to go and do something else.
Yeah, was it sort of like, was he like trying to perfect it almost? He was a bit too precious.
He was a perfectionist, and he just wanted to make sure everything was just right. And I think the other problem was, I think we weren't showing anybody any of the music. And I think wasn't good, because you don't know where you're at if you're not showing people your music.
Yeah, I think you need to sometimes just take the chance, send a demo to someone, and if someone likes it, they are going to play it.
It's just one of them. I think he just thought that I think he had this paranoia that I think he thought at the time, we're that good. If someone hears this, they're going to steal our music or something. And it was like, oh God. But anyway, then I ended up. After that, I ended up. I just at the time, it was like 2004 when I was wrapping this up, and I just met my wife, and I knew that I would get serious about Lindsay. Early on, I knew she was a keeper. So, and then she was living in a different town, so I ended up spending a lot of time there. And then I think she just made me realise that how stuck I was really at the time. And then, so anyway, I ended up meeting. There was an ad for this bunch of guys in Leyland looking for a drummer, and I was a drummer, but I'd never done any gigs or anything. I just played in my bedroom and in the studio. So I just sort of lied. I just said, yeah, I've done loads of gigs, and yeah, I'll be a drummer, and that was it. And then ended up joining this band, and they were really ambitious, these guys. Really thankful I met these guys at the time, because that's how I became self-employed. I became a proper self-employed musician, and it was an originals band, but we funded the originals project by doing covers gigs.
Was that the Fun Time Frankies as the covers?
Yeah. The band was the Ardenos, and then at the time, I think 2005-06, we were gigging all over the place, going around the country doing it, and then we did have a little fan base at the time, and we did have a tiny bit of heat in London, a few managers interested for a while, but we kept losing bass players. That was the thing. They kept fucking off. You know what I mean? And I think when I die, I'd like all the bass players to come to my funeral so they can lower me into my grave, so they can let me down one last time. So it's like, because it felt like every time we were getting some heat and momentum, someone would leave. First guy was Greg. He was French, and we had this gig at the Barfly in London, and MTV2 were going to be like hosting this gig, and if we felt like it probably wasn't that big a deal, but we felt like this is a really good gig. And Greg had left the band, and we said, look, just get on a plane, just come do this one gig for us and whatever. And then anyway, we didn't do that gig because he couldn't do it. And then we had another guy called Tom and he moved to Preston from, I think he lived in Bristol, and I think he just didn't like Preston. I'm like, well, you moved from Bristol, I'm not surprised. And then I think Preston just wasn't floating his boat, so he kind of hung around for a bit. And to be fair, he stayed around for a long time while we sorted another guy out, and then we had another guy called Chris, but he was just, I don't know, I think he just liked drugs and drink too much. He was just a bit
Sounds
of a
like bass players, to be fair.
And then that was that. So, but then the originals band died of death in about, I think, 2007, and then after that, it was just a covers band then, and then I think it was in 2008. I wasn't in a band anymore. I was just doing the covers, and I wanted to do something. I thought, well, felt like I'd not really done anything that really summed up what I wanted to do. So I thought I wanted to write my own songs and do it. And then that's when I met Lee, because I went to Lee as a customer because he was just producing on his own for a few years in Wigan, and I met him and I did a few songs on my own in 2008, and then Lee thought we worked well together because he worked with loads of people, and then we worked on a charity single together, and it was Lee's idea at the end of 2008. He proposed, "Do you want to do like a production team?" And I thought, I never really thought about it, I think there was actually three of us at the time though. But that didn't last. But we just found that we worked well together, and it was ended. We'd done a few things, and then in 2009, that's when it properly started.
So just to take you back, like when you've lied about doing loads of gigs and all that sort of thing, how did you find that transition from like going from bedroom player into actually?
Was scary. It was scary because I remember there was. I think there was like you get. Well, I think what it is. I just got. It was the best thing I could have done because I was really thrown at the deep end, especially with some of the covers gigs. Because I think the third gig I ever played was this massive room. It was like some holiday park, and I was literally shitting my pants. But anyway, it was like as soon as just a few gigs in, I was used to it. I didn't get nervous. I never really got stage fright.
Yeah, is it? Did you find like the timing with other musicians was a lot harder though? Because obviously you're used to the playing along to a CD or an MP3 or whatever.
Not really, no, because I was always like, I'd sort of done enough. I played enough and done enough. I think it was it was fine. But I think it was one of those things where I felt like I just had to do something, and I think that I was good enough musically just to throw myself in at the deep end. But I didn't tell them. I felt like I was really out of my depth. I've told them now since, I completely bullshitted them and everything, but whatever. So I was working with Lee, but then I started a band around about 2009, and that was like my band, and that was Super 8 Cynics, and then recorded an album, and it was, for me, this was like really that's the closest I got to doing something that I really liked and really sort of summed up my best sort of songwriting, and I was singing and sort of like co-producing, and it sort of went down like sort of 80s synth route, because that really just by circumstance, there was like a guy in the band who was he had a load of Simpson. There's another guy in the band who really liked that stuff, so I just looked at the players we had. It made sense to go down that route, and we could, because I was open-minded about what kind of project it was going to be, but that's what it ended up being. And we recorded an album, and I knew at the time though, I was like, it felt like for the type of music I was doing, it did feel like, right, this is something I wanted to do, but it felt like last orders, the last chance saloon. And I thought it's either going to work or it's not. But anyway, so that went on for a few years, did some gigs, and then that fucking died a death after a few years, and then we ended up being a two-piece again, different. And then it was like, did a few EPs, and then one day, I loved doing the writing and recording, but one day, I think it's when I had my first kid, I persevered for a couple of years, and then one day, I think in my mid-30s, I just thought, fucking hell, I just got
sick of gigging.
I didn't really know it wasn't that. I just felt like I was sort of done with it. I felt like I was just too long in the tooth. to be doing the gigs. And I think when you have your kid, you sort of your focus changes, and you sort of like, if you're not doing something that's not providing for your family, you just feel. I personally felt like a bit selfish to be trying to sort of, and the production was going really well, and I was still at that time. I was doing the production and gigging still with the covers band, and then so I was really busy. So obviously adding the other thing to that was just a bit much, and then I was having a new baby as well. So I knocked that on the head. And then just went, and eventually I was able to. We're so busy with the production, I was able to throw away my red pants and then leave the Fun Time Frankies as well. And that was about 2016. And obviously really thankful that I was able to do that. I did it for 11 years, but I do not miss it at all. I've done so many weddings, and I've played Brown Eyed Girl hundreds and hundreds of times.
On Brightside, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, all I mean, I like Brightside, but it's
when you're playing it every week, it's not as fun, is it? Let's be honest.
It's not as fun, but I think a lot of bands play that wrong as well.
Yeah,
they make it like a disco track, and it's not like that actually. But it's an hard one to get right. And then Sex on Fire, we murdered that one a few times, and then, but no, it was good, and it sort of got me. I learned a lot and travelled a lot doing that, and then. It meant I was able to do the production, and then eventually we're so busy with production, I was able to step away from that, and now I'm just music producer, which is, it's good.
So, turn back to the start of that production journey. How did you find that sort of sequence with that 4 years that you said you thought at the time you'd wasted? How much experience did you gain from just being in that room for 4 years, and were you able to take into the new venture with Lee?
Yeah, I didn't realise how much I'd actually. It's a funny one because, like I said, if someone said when I was like a 20-year-old, "Oh, you'll end up being a record producer," I'd be like, "No way." It wasn't even on my. I didn't plan it. It just happened, and but it kind of. It was like it's a really odd one. It worked out. Everything I'd done. It was like the perfect training for what I do, and then I'd also been to I had vocal coaching for a few years as well. During the time when I had the studio, and he was brilliant, this vocal coach. And a lot of the things when we're doing vocal production now and trying to get a performance out of someone, there's still things that I remember from that as well. So it's like, just learned a lot, and there's a lot of things that I don't know. Just listening to a lot of music as well. I never stop listening to music, and even now, even when I'm not at the studio, I'm always listening to music. I can't stop, and it's like. I think you're just absorbing things all the time, but yeah. So,
what we wanted to do is give some of the viewers that maybe don't know what a producer does. Like, how would you define the day-to-day job of a producer?
Well, with Sugar House, it's a duo, so we have different roles. Well, some of it, the production side of things, that's something we share, but obviously Lee is the engineer and he mixes the tracks. I'm solely production, and we do share that. And then, but also post-release as well. What we do, we try and help the bands if they want a bit of help. Post-release, a bit of aftercare, really try and help them make a good fist of the release. See if they can get some wins off their own back. And that's something we've had a lot of success doing that. And that's a lot. Obviously, the first job is make the track sound really good. And then try and help them do something with it afterwards. And then, that when they get those wins, it really encourages them, and they think, oh, I'll come back, So, but the day-to-day, it's always different, really, because we are quite hands-on in our approach. It's not like a band walks in with a song, they leave with a record, and it's not like they're not always, it's not like just play through the song, bish, bash, bosh, press record. It's not like that. We kind of, we were in the studio last week and a band came in to record 2 songs and they played 2 songs and they said, right, and he said, oh, is that all you've got? They said, yeah. And one song we said, well, we're not recording that because it's not good enough. And the other one was kind of half written. So we helped them finish it. And then we found they had another song that they just was on the back burner and they forgot it was a really good one. They just not showing us, and that's what I ended up doing. And it's like really from the drums, really, that's from the ground up. We'll look at everything, what's going on, you know, if there's anything that we need to look at, the sound, the tone of everything, the parts hitting, is the dynamically are the choruses hitting, and it's like every sort of facet of what's happening on the record. It's like you're sort of unpicking it and making it so it's really, really good.
Yeah, so a question we were going to actually ask, because I remember taking Live for the Weekend, the first official defined by studio recording, into the studio. I remember sitting with you and you go, right, have you got an idea for the lead guitar? I said, yeah. So I started playing it, and within 2 seconds, you knew it wasn't it. Like, where do you think the line gets drawn between the artist's creative freedom and you absolutely thinking, no, I've got to step in here?
Well, it's always it depends really. I mean, it's like sometimes if an artist is adamant that they want to do what they want to do, you know, it's up. You know, we'll say whatever, but it's like we always say, well, but trust us though. We sort of if we feel strongly about something, we'll step in. Sometimes it is a case of picking your battles though, and we don't really step in with anything if it's not just for the sake of it. Because there's times when if it's good already, we don't. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We really don't, because if it's cool already, I mean, we learn a lot from musicians as well. You know, they come in and they do stuff, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't think of that. It's not like we know everything. But creative freedom is just like, well, I mean, we work with a lot of young bands, and sometimes it is literally just it's the extra 20% that they've just not got because they don't have the experience. I mean, I don't have youth anymore, but I have a lot of experience. And the thing is, it's like, and when you're young as well, when you're in a band, I was exactly the same. I hated, I was a drummer and I was very busy. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. And anyone told me like, you're not doing that, I hated it. Yeah. But really, you come to understand that really the most important thing in any song is the vocal, and everything that you know has got to serve the song and the vocal, and that's the thing that's got to come across the more, you know, the most 100%,
100%. I think that was a difference I kind of learnt from my mistakes with Live for the Weekend. I kind of went in there open-minded because I only really had the acoustic version and an idea of what I wanted on guitar, an idea of what I wanted on vocals, but an idea of what I wanted on drums, sorry.
Yeah.
You kind of, we went in there thinking, right, okay, this sounds like a country track, this. And I think both in the end, it was like, that's gone way more indie than we thought it was going to go. And then God's No Help came in, and I was like, right, I've got this idea. And again, you just went, right, just stick to the pentatonic on that last bit. You've got it. It was like, right, okay. And then there was another part that I had for it that I was going to stick in the chorus, or potentially going to stick in the chorus, and you just went, no, we'll stick it in the verse here.
Do you know what the funny thing is about recording? And it's not like every day is different. It's not like A plus B equals C every time. It's just it's really hard. And sometimes people ask us, like, they ask us, why have you done that? And it's, I don't know, it's we just feel it's our instincts. You trust your instincts. And me and Lee kind of generally, we have, you know, I have an idea sometimes that Lee hadn't thought of, but generally we are on the same page, and we sort of think the same things a lot of the time. But I think it's just an instinct for what, and it depends what you're going for as well, and what kind of track you want to make, what's relevant at the time. For example, if it's a pop punk band, you're allowed to do pick slides and things like that. You know, and if an indie band tried to do that, I'd be like, no, you can't do that. It's like, you know,
no, just slide down from the 12th, mate.
You know, but pick slide on the pop punk track, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it was my idea one time. I said we have to do a pick slide here, and it's like because you can. You know what I mean? But you come in with like, if it's an indie band, a lot of the time, you know, it's not like you're getting all your synths out and all the bells and whistles like that. It's like you put a different cap on for that, and then you try and get into that mindset. And if it's an electronic sort of pop sort of thing, you think in a completely different way. Because what we're quite good at is we're good at the indie guitar bands, we're good at sort of the rock bands, and we're good at like the sort of poppier stuff and sort of everything in between, and we can kind of sidestep quite well between those things. And I think, you know, some producers, I think they have, you know, like they might just do rock or they might just do indie. I think we're quite good at sort of doing all of them,
mixing between genres. Yeah. So when you started out with Lee, what who were the bands then that you were thinking, I'll tell you what, these could do something, these?
I think one of the first bands that I can't remember exactly when it was, but there was a band from Bolton called 2 Weeks Running, and they were really good. I remember them. They had some really good songs, really good image, and I was convinced at the time they were going to do something. I think I can't remember exactly what happened, but we worked with them for a few years. But then I think what happened was, I think Blossoms supported them at the Night and Day at one of their headline gigs, and I think Blossoms, I think they got discovered at what that gig. I think I might be completely wrong about that, but apparently, obviously, that it was just. But I just thought that I don't know what happened there with that band, because they felt like they had everything going for them. The songs were brilliant, and it went off as well. I went to some of the gigs, and it was like insane. You know, people just sort of loving it. But no, I don't, and sometimes it's disappointing because you sort of, you know, over the years we've sort of seen some unsigned bands emerge, and something's been happening, and sometimes it goes so far for a few years, and then the band break up, or sometimes a band will sort of go for a few years, and then they'll have a sort of, it looks like they're on a, you know, success is going to be a thing, and then they do something stupid and it goes to shit. You know, but we're trying to get as many bands over the line as possible. But it's a fickle industry, really, and the only thing you've got control over, really, is just do as good a job as you can on the music and just keep going, you know.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned to me at the time, when I was in the studio with you, you produced Viola Beach's album that ended up...
Well, we did 5 tracks with them.
5 tracks with him.
Yeah.
So... what were they like to work with? Because I'm sure there's a few listeners that would know about Viola Beach. Obviously, Chris Martin did a nice tribute to him at Glastonbury at the time.
When I found Viola Beach, they had a very, very basic recording of a song called Daisies on SoundCloud, and it was just literally guitar and vocal and not much else, really, I think. And there was just something about the song and Chris's voice. And I messaged him, and, you know, back then we weren't charging. It was literally peanuts to work with us, and just because we're of the mindset we just wanted to work. And I think it was good because it made you know, any band could sort of work with us, really. It wasn't like we're off limits, really. So they came to record a song with us. The first thing they did with us was a song called Chumley Brown, and not many people would have heard this because it's not on the record. First thing I thought was the drummer Jack had a very unorthodox style. He was like, he was one of these, he never played the same thing twice. He just sort of like, so he'd do something, he'd be like, do that again. He'd like, what have I done? What did I do? So it was kind of like the way we recorded, and the way we did it, we'd sort of record with loops, sort of holding it together, and he'd sort of just do kind of what he did over the loops. So it made it quite interesting. I think there was Chris and Jack, and then there was 2 other people at the time, and I think then a guitarist left, and then they came in minus this guitarist for another track. We did a song called Sex Wax next, and then that was an interesting one. And then I don't know why it was called Sex Wax. I think Sex Wax is something you put on your surfboard, I think. I don't know if you have a surfboard, I don't know. And then
funnily enough. And
then they lost another member because he went to uni, and they came in with a bass player, Tom. And then that's when we recorded Swings and Water Slides and Cherry Vimto. And, Chris was really good songwriter. Every time he come in, his songs were really good, but I think because they weren't really a full lineup, what we had to do on those recordings was really kind of like fleshing out the arrangements and trying to give it a thing. But they were fun. They were really nice lads. You know, they'd like to party. You know, they come in sometimes, and you know, it'd be like 10 in the morning. They had like a 2-litre bottle of cider, and then you know, or they'd been out the night before or whatever. But they were just really funny, nice lads, and we enjoyed working with them. But I got to say, we didn't know that when we were doing Swings and Water Slides that you know, that they'd end up sort of doing something, because there were times when they couldn't even, at one point, they couldn't even get to a gig. You know what I mean? They were that disorganised. But what happened was, somewhere down the line, they really sort of started, they started taking it really seriously. They started rehearsing a lot, and they really sort of became really mega focused. And we noticed a real change. And then they got River in the band, and they just rehearsed a lot. And then it was that year 2015 where they started getting played on Radio 1, 6 Music. The stream started going up, and I think that year they also did Maid of Vale. I think that's when they had Reading and Leeds and things. So it's like they were really on the way, and they, I think, supported Cortinas, Liza and the Bear, and then, you know, so everything was going good for them, you know. And then they recorded somewhere else, because I think they signed to Communion, and then I think part of that deal was they recorded with Ian Grimble,
right?
But which I was gutted about, to be honest, because we really like working with them, and they actually played us this song because we helped them sort of with their set. They came in, they wanted some help sort of with the Red and Lead set, just and we just came in for a day, and we sort of helped them put it together. But they played this song. Chris said, "Oh, I've written a power ballad," like joking. He said it was "Call You Up,"
right?
And he played it, just him and his guitar, and I literally, the hairs on the back of my neck. I never said this sounds like a complete cliche, but it's absolutely true. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. You know, and I mean, how many times someone's walked in and played a song, and then that, you know, that's happened maybe twice. I couldn't believe it, and I said that is like one of the best songs I've ever heard. And I said we have to record that. They were actually booked in to record, but they cancelled. But I said, look, I know you're going to go and record a bunch of songs. I said, look, I was that excited about that song. I said, listen, and I've never done this. I said, I will record it for nothing. Just come, I'll pay for the studio. We'll just do it. You know, but actually, they recorded it, and it's a great song, and I really, but even like, you know, I think was it the last time I heard from Chris? It was December 2015. He was doing a gig somewhere, and he messaged me, and just said, you know, so hope you're well, and then and we saw what they were doing and stuff, and it was because they went to do that gig. And then
it was in Sweden, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, and we'd done our first, I think, second at the time. We're in with a band called Mint over the weekend when we did weekends. And I got up on the Sunday morning about 7, 8 o'clock, and I went down to make a coffee, and I was checking my phone, and I had a load of messages like saying, "Have you heard about Viola Beach?" And I'm like, "What?" And I knew where they were. I thought the first thing I thought was, have they got into a fight or something? Have they got into trouble? You know, have they been arrested or something? And then
partying too hard again.
So something like that. And then I found it on Reddit it wasn't on the news yet. It was just going around. You know, rumors going around the internet. And then and then I found out the whole band and the manager died, and I couldn't believe it. And then so I went to work, rang Lee. And he couldn't believe it, and so we didn't know what to do. We sort of, this band we were in with, they'd come from Grimsby, and we're halfway through it, so we sort of went to work, and it was really, our heads were up our arse that day. And then I think Granada rang, ITV rang up, and then they wanted to come and talk to us, so we did that, and then we finished this track. But it was just like, it was just such an odd. I mean, to be honest. For a good few months after that, just remember just a horrible feeling, thinking about it. And then it's just rubbish. It's just one of the fucking worst things, because I think they really were a special band, and they were doing it. And some people have said to me like, oh well, it's been mentioned to me a few times. Oh well, did they only become like
big after they?
Yeah, and I said, well, no. He said that they actually really were. If you actually do your research, they were doing it. They were actually going to be. I think they were on that. They would have been one of like the household name bands. I think if because Chris was just a brilliant songwriter, and you could see it was happening for him. I think God knows what happened in that car, but my guess is my thought is I've done a lot of gigs where you're travelling home late at night, and then you nearly nod off, and I think tragically, I think whoever was driving must have fallen asleep at the wheel, and then I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah, it was. I think I just moved to. I just started to get into the scene around then. I think Warrington, like as a whole, was heartbroken. It was like their music scene had gone, because I think it was the first. I
think it was just so exciting for everyone to see. Everyone was sort of behind them. Everyone couldn't believe that this band were doing it. It was like a bit of a, they were so proud of this band, and it was just really just shit. Just really gutted that for everyone. We're really proud we got to work with them. But just bittersweet overall, and obviously the record, the bunch of tracks went out. It wasn't obviously the record that they would have made, but it was amazing that they got the #1 record and stuff, and it Swings and Water Slides on it. Obviously, really proud of it, and but there are other tracks actually that exist that unreleased. So I hope one day that it's not up to me, but the
family decide to.
Yeah, because some of them are really good. There's one called Chumley Brown. It's like really, really cool. Still sounds really good.
Do you think they still would? Do you think you think they'd actually be up there with like the likes of the Cortinas and things like people like that as one of the household names? Genuinely,
I genuinely think that I do. Just because I think they were doing something that was. Chris was he was like. He had his own thing with his songwriting. He wasn't copying anyone, and I think he had such charisma. You know what I mean? And I think that I personally think that it was they would have done it.
So obviously you've moved from them. I think you've told me about a few other bands that you work with, like Glass Cave. You've also worked with Corella.
Yeah.
So since then, how have you found you've evolved since that time where you're obviously giving it away for peanuts when you start?
Well, what happened after that was we worked with a few other we worked with Pale Wave. We did the demos that got Pale Wave signed to Dirty Hit. They weren't really like proper records, but they were the demos that sort of got the attention of Dirty Hit, and then that was a thing we name dropped for a bit, and then. Glass Caves was one of them. And then what happened was more and more bands that we're working with were getting like things like Radio 1 and a lot of bands were getting industry interest, like bands like Stilia, Revelers. So it got to the point where there was a radio plugger that we knew called Stuart Bridgman. And he asked us, he said, what are you after? And we felt we were at the point where we really needed some management to help sort of open some doors in the music industry at large for us, really. That's where we felt like we were at. And he was friends with a woman called Ros Earls, and we knew about Ros Earls because she managed producers, and we'd been messaged Ros for like years telling her about what we're doing, and then they just went out into the ether, and we never got any replies. But anyway, one phone call, Stuart Bridgman rang Ros, and he just sold Sugar House to her. And I was on the phone with her straight away, and she said, "Yeah, we'd love to work with him." We went to meet him. Actually, another woman called Kat Kennedy, and they sort of co-managed us for the next sort of 5 years. And we're still sort of loosely based with them now, as and when they helped do the Corella deal for us. But that's really where after that though, they said, look, you're working too much and you're working for too little, and they were right. We really were. I mean, it it got us to a certain point, but we had to really start
reining it in.
Yeah, really. We had to what sort of work less because we're burning ourselves out. We do ridiculous things like we work for 12 hours. We do sessions at night. We work weekends. We never have a day off. So I think we really we started doing focusing really on what we wanted to work on, and the fee went up just because we're at the point where we could command a bit more. But yeah, and then the other bands like say Corella, like we just started working with Corella. I think it was just at the time when Viola Beach passed, I think, and then obviously it's been like that's 99 years ago now. So we've worked with Corella a long time, and they're doing really well now. But they'll even say this themselves. They feel like they really went the long way around to get where they are. But I also think that COVID really makes everything seem a bit longer. Because I think you've got to take 3 years off because of COVID. It really it really stalled progress for a lot of bands. I mean, not many bands actually got through it. Up and coming bands. I think there was definitely bands who were sort of right on the trajectory of doing something, and then COVID happened, and it really just derailed them. And then Corella were one of the exceptions because at the time, I think they'd sort of hit a bit of a roadblock, and but they ended up living together, all of them, and I think that just galvanised them, and they started really just loving making music again. They came out of COVID stronger than they'd ever been, and they never really looked back since then.
Yeah, it's quite odd, isn't it? It's quite odd, isn't it, how it literally goes one way for one group of people, another way for another.
Well, it's not. That's the thing. I mean, I think there's a bit. It's obviously a bit. There's a little bit of luck involved, a bit of bad luck involved. Because sometimes sometimes things just don't go the way you think they're going to go, and it's not always about how good you are, how good the song is. It's just there's a lot of sometimes things don't pan out, and you can't really predict it.
Yeah. So you say you said about most of the bands started to get radio play.
Yeah.
Obviously, back in 2015, 2016. Radio was probably still the one. Do you think it still has as much prevalence as what it did? Should it still be the focus for most bands that are wanting to get somewhere straight away?
I think it's a nice trophy piece getting on the radio, but I think that I think what's more valuable is getting on a Spotify playlist where you can see your fan base growing. That's more. I mean, if it was me now, I'd say a Spotify playlist over a spot play on Radio 1 at 3 in the morning or whatever it is, because it's more the flex on social media after you've had the radio play. There's probably about 2 people listening to the radio, but it's more like the flex. Say we got Radio 1, it's like that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's hard. And then there's people like, you see people sometimes paying pluggers to try and get on radio, and then that's never guaranteed. And they can spend a lot of money, hundreds if not thousands, and it really what's going to happen if you get that, if you spend that money and then you get that one radio play. It's not like it's going to change your life. It's just going to be one radio play. It's not like you need to be getting played on the radio a lot for it to sort of do anything, I think. And
so the last few years, we'll go to the last few years. So obviously we've name dropped Corella. Another band that I follow quite regularly is Cottons. We've actually got the Cases on next week. So you've worked with them, and the Lilacs are another band.
The Lilacs. They're actually working with another producer now. They're working with Joe Cross. Because they're doing an EP with him, and I think they are going to be doing an album. But we were for the last couple of years, and we're still on good terms with him. The singer rang me up, and he's like, he just said cheers for the last few years, but we're going to be working with Joe Cross because they are really into the Cortinas Lilacs, and obviously Joe Cross is in the Cortinas. So I said I get it. So I wished them well, and then I do hope that we'll see him again. But yeah, they're doing amazing things.
Yeah, I actually saw him supporting the K's, who were another band you worked with as well in the past, and I thought who are these? Like, there's one song that sounded very Arctic Monkeys-esque. Literally just one song of theirs. The rest of it is that whole Cortina's influence. And I felt like when you produced Sticky Dance Floors, it was kind of like, right, okay, I can hear the sound they're going for now, because the recordings, they worked with Gaz at the Lounge, I think, before that.
Yeah.
And it was just, you could just see them merging towards that, like, sort of level. There was a bit more gain in the guitars and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I'm quite proud. I think the Sticky Dance Floors is probably the best one we did with them. I think we did a good job with them. I think, and I do, and I think I know they're going to do really well. And I'd love to see them again, because they're a really good laugh, really funny lads.
We had Ollie on, actually. We had Ollie on. He was one of the last ones in the old studio. He was a great lad. But Cottons, I want to talk about Cottons, because, I mean, I've heard some of their early recordings, and probably one of their earliest recordings, Disregard the Times, is like one of my favourite songs by them. Right. But you've done the latest single, what was it called now?
Old School Town.
Old School Town. Like, they've got some ability in that band. Jack, the guy I know in there.
We just had them in to do two singles, not this week, the week before. I think that they're really good to work with, just because they listen to us, and there's no ego in that band at all. It's like literally they come in and it's like whatever we have to do to make it good, we just do it. We knew that when on that Old School Town, we knew we'd hit another level. So we said, right, guys, we're going to have to really, that's the level, we have to equal or top that, and we've done it again. It was hard. I think there's the next single, I think, is going to, if you thought that was good, then it's going to really surprise people again. But it's actually Jack from Corella who told me about them.
Right, okay.
Because he said that, they're a really good band, but the recordings are not that good. And
I think it just seemed like it was like, it sounded like it was from 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
It just sounded a bit flat and lacking a bit of... it said all it needed saying, like the first sort of 20 seconds, and stayed and flatlined, really. So we could tell that the songs were good. And it's one of those where we've just... Everything we've been doing with them is... Well, they've noticed results straight away as well. They've come in, listened to us, and I think they only had, like, a year ago, they only had, like, 200 sort of followers on Spotify. Now it went up to 20,000 at the end of last year, which is, for a band sort of to see that upward curve. It's exciting.
Yeah, they got on an editorial with was it Old School Channel, Second Hand Living Rooms? They got on editorial.
I don't think so. I think they had some radio play.
Right.
Oh no, I think they got an Apple playlist. I think.
Right.
But yeah, it's just they're picking up little things, and they've just had Why. They've got BBC have put them on Why Not and things, and they're just a good band. I think they're probably one of the bands at the moment, local bands that we're quite excited about, and just dead sound lads, and. The songs are good. I mean, they don't walk in with the songs like that, though. And actually, the guitarist Jasper just rang me up, and he was just literally. I hung up on him when I got here, because I said I've got to go now. But he was just thanking us, saying he can't believe how good the mix is, and we're like, cheers. Honestly, no, it was hard, but we were like, we this song that ended up being really good. Halfway through day one, we thought, oh shit, this is not going to be good. But we persevered, pushed them, and we got there with it. And it's really, that's the thing, is like, it's really exciting when you get to the end of a session and you dig in and you find that magic, whatever it is, and you get out to the side and you think, this is fucking cool. This is,
That sums up, I suppose, what your job is. So, is that the single-handed best thing when you get that? Like, is it the track you graft for that gives you the best feeling, or is it just?
I like it when I don't like it at the time sometimes when it's Monday morning and it's a bit of it's like a problem solving headache. You think, oh God, how are we gonna, because that's what it is a lot of the time. It's problem solving and figuring out how are we going to make this good. How are you going to get, how you're going to get the performances right, and but it is a good feeling. When it's a great feeling actually. You feel at the end of the week when you got there, it's really satisfying, and it's like. But I think if you just turn up to the studio on Monday and think you're piss excellence, I think that you're probably going to make a boring recording because it's like I said, it's not like you it's always different. It's got to be different because you're trying to create something new every time you come in. You're not just following a script that's already been written. It's that you're trying to make something new, and a lot of the time you kind of like it's you fall back on experience sometimes, and obviously you have a bag of tricks, but often it's like that's what you got to do. You got to produce. You got to make something and push.
Right, so we're going to start to wrap things up now. So when you started producing, you say it was about 2011?
2009.
2009. What would you say has changed from 2009 to 2025? Because kind of indie music especially has gone through the works, hasn't it? Because it used to be like brashy guitar bands, then it went a bit cleaner and a bit more ambient, and then now it's gone almost everything's gearing towards a bit of indie pop. In a way, because it's got like there's a few more synths working the way in, or synthy, like electronic-y sort of digital sounds. I think
everything kind of moves in cycles, but there's always we've always worked on. There's always been different kinds of bands around at the same time, but for whatever, they've always not been in vogue at that time. I think that's the thing that changes. Fashion changes, but I think there's always been. These bands, always been the rock bands, always indie pop bands. It's just that's the thing that kind of irritates me sometimes. I think there's always different types of bands that are really good, but it does feel like sometimes at a certain point in time there's not a place for that kind of band if it's if it's just the wrong time for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely get that. Right, the next question: where is music now? Where do you think it's going?
I've no idea. I don't know. I can't claim to know that. I don't know. No. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even think about that. I just think, well, I just keep an open mind about it, really. It's just, you go in, I think you can't really... yeah.
Do you think we'll still see gigs going on, like, locally in the next, well, say 10 years? Because there are a lot of local music venues shutting, which is going to stop that. Like bands that you're trying to help, it's going to
I think it's getting harder, but I think they are. I mean, it's quite. I mean, Manchester's a good place to be because there's a lot of venues. I think it's harder for places like Preston. I mean, there's like how many? There's like one venue left.
One or two. I think Vinyl Tap does a bit, but like they're only aiming it at like rock bands and blues bands. They won't entertain indie bands or anything.
I think it's all right in your cities like Liverpool, Manchester, brilliant. I think it's like the places like Preston, all these towns, and then sometimes bands work with us when they live out in the sticks, and then they kind of they struggle. It's like there's a band coming next week, and they're coming from the Isle of Wight. There's only one venue in the Isle of Wight, so what they have to do, if they want to gig anywhere else, they've got to get on a ferry, and then go somewhere else, and then
like Portsmouth or Southampton. I guess, yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting one because. They're coming to record a couple of singles. It's going to be interesting to see how we can help them in a way. See if we can help them get a foothold further into the UK, away from the Isle of Wight, just to see if it'll help them because in the Isle of Wight they're doing fine. It's just that they kind of it's hard.
It's harder to get more national.
See, the Northwest is actually a really good place when you think about it though for bands because everything's right there. Liverpool, Sheffield. Manchester, Leeds, and all these some little good venues in the towns around. So it's like you can do you can go around that circuit quite easily. Whereas I think it's harder if you're a band in Scotland, and then that's really difficult. Or if you're a band like if you're out in the sticks down south, sometimes that's difficult. And then you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think everywhere when I was at uni between Portsmouth and Brighton. If you got into Brighton, the next step was London. So it was like there's always that extra stepping stone to get anywhere. I think Northwest, you're kind of like, well, you're always somewhere that's halfway or nearer one of the two, Liverpool or Manchester. You got two relatively big music cities.
Well, it's crazy really when you think about we've got it easy when you think about what the distances people have to travel in America. And it's like I think bands who complain about travelling in the UK need to think about that, because it's nothing.
No.
Really getting around and doing anything in the UK is nothing.
Got a point. Got a point. Right. Lastly, we'll ask you to ask the question, the first question for the next guest. What would you like to?
Don't know who the guest is.
No, that's the idea.
I wish you'd told me that before.
Just for the viewers, Luke just asked off camera what would Sugar House be looking to work with, and what are the requirements if you want to as a band work with them.
Well, we really only get involved with a band if we're interested in what they're doing, because I think that if there's nothing that we can bring to the table to the music, there's no point. First of all, it's like I'm interested if are the songs interesting, but is there something there that they need help with that we could help them with? Because sometimes when we listen to a band that I've not heard before, it's exciting when you hear that I'm listening to it through that. I can hear what we do to it, and to take it up to the level it needs to be at. And if we feel that we can do that, I'm interested. Or sometimes I'll listen to a track and think, this is actually really good, and they don't need our help. You can tell it's already working, and I'll not bother with it. If they come to us, that's different. But if we're going after a band, I'm looking for potential that's not been met. And then, and we just say, if you're going to work with us, trust the process, because some producers kind of sit back and they're very hands off. And if that's the way you like to record, keep doing it, because we're not like that. We'll try and get stuck in to make the track as good as it can be, and that's it. And because if we don't do that, that's what bands come to us for. They come to us because they expect a certain level, and also that a lot of bands that work with us do get radio on Spotify and things like that. So it's like, and they're getting that because of the decisions that we make in the studio. So it's like, we'll say, I mean, most of the time bands come and it's a bit of an eye opener sometimes the first time they come in, if they're not used to it. But then what happens is they go away and they suss it out, and everything ends up getting better. The songwriting, the arrangement. And I think it's nice when you start building a relationship with an artist where they start understanding you, and vice versa, and it ends up just being a really nice. The tracks always end up getting better.
I think I noticed that with you, like, as I say, where you went, no, that's not it, on a bit straight away. But I felt like I did need that. Like, I'd never really recorded in a studio with production like that. I was surprised when I got a message from you, to be honest. Like, we think your songs are really good, but like I think I listened back to the production of some of that when Weekend come out and when God's No Help come out. I listen back and think, what the fuck was I playing at in my bedroom? I'm shite.
Well, no, it's just you just got to start somewhere, innit? It's like I like that, where it's like, it's really exciting just listening to a song and just thinking, well, does this person or does this band do they need some help?
Yeah.
And then there's bands, we know we're doing something right because we've got bands travelling all over the country working with us. Like this week we've just been in with a band called Cloud House, and they're from Glasgow. And they've I think they've been, we've done like 5 tracks with them, and they're going to be coming back. And then it's really nice because we know these guys really well now, and every time we come in, it just feels like it's just getting better and better and better. And they're getting, like Cottons as well. The tracks are getting better, and they're seeing. It's like as what the tracks are getting better, and they're seeing everything's just getting better.
Yeah, they're getting tens of thousands of plays on Spotify and every track now. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is, I know Jack the drummer from Cottons. Not personally met him, but he volunteered. Like, we asked for a dep for my covers band. And he got in touch saying he was available, and we've not managed to gig with him yet. The gig we were going to have him for got cancelled. But I just said, like, what do you normally do? He's like, I'm in this band called Cottons, and like, I was listening to him. I think it was a couple of years ago, and then I saw that they were in the studio with you. I was like, oh, this is going up now. This is going up now. Because I think they even had, like, the track Bitter was at like something 10,000 plays or something before that. it might have been the last track they released before you.
They've yet to sort of really hit the stride. I think this next one, I think, it's pretty special. I'll be honest with you. I think it's the kind of track that's going to frighten a few bands. It's that good,
right?
It's like
Well, I can say, working single-handedly with Ady, if he's saying that, genuinely he believes in it as well. So, Ady, I did think about doing something called executive orders. So just name one thing in the music industry you'd love to put in the bin forever.
Oh, God, that's a brilliant one. Where do I start with that? In the bin.
Or one thing
I've got to be careful, you see.
One thing from a music producer's point of view, even.
One thing I really like about I think that if you're a DJ or a Spotify editor, it's your job to be diligent and make sure that the good stuff doesn't get missed, right? And sometimes it does. Whereas John Kennedy, he's brilliant. If it's a good track, it gets sent his way. 9 times out of 10, he's playing that track. A bit like, the way Steve Lamacq listened to everything, John Peel, he's that kind of thing. I do think stuff gets missed, on the pitching and on the even Beavis introducing and the radio side of things. I think that's something. I think that that's one thing I wish would change. Be better. Yeah.
Okay. Have you thought about the question you want to ask for the next guest?
Okay. What's the most embarrassing song that you really, really love to listen to?
Oh, like a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Love that, mate. Love that. What's yours, by the way?
Oh, I've got many. But do you know what I really like? Well, just this week, I love Want to Want Me by Jason Derulo. What a tune.
Great tune.
It's a great tune.
I was thinking about this the other week. I can't even remember what I picked. Oh, no, I do remember getting into music because I loved Robbie Williams' Angels as a kid, though.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. That's an innocent one, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for joining us, Ady. It's good to see you again because it's been a while.
It's been a while, thanks. Yeah, thanks, mate.
Yeah. Right, thanks for coming on and thanks for tuning in. Go and hit the subscribe button and like and follow us everywhere for one more Songcast. Cheers.